Welcome. I'm Town Moderator Adam Dash. With me are Town Clerk Ellen O'Brien-Cushman. Hello,
Hello.
Ellen.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Great. Glad to be
And
here.
Warrant Committee Chair Paul Richter. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Adam.
This video is to orient new town meeting members and also to inform veteran town meeting members and the public about the town of Belmont structure, the format of town meeting, and the town's budget. First, Town Clerk Ellen O'Brien-Cushman will review the structure of the town's government. Ellen?
Thank you, Adam. As town clerk, I'm actually responsible for two different parts of the government, or actually three parts of the government. But you might see me on election day running around and registering people to vote. Another major part of our job here is supporting the town meeting and Belmont's town meeting members. What we've really learned over a long period of time doing this is that a lot of people in town do not understand our form of government. Some people believe that we're a city. Some people believe that we're a town with a city council or a town council. We are neither of those. Belmont's official form of government is a representative town meeting, and we have a three-member elected select board. That's actually one of the largest in terms of the town meeting, with 288 individual town meeting members elected. It's one of the largest in the state. And it has been this way in Belmont since 1926. A special act created our representative town meeting. We have two different types of parts or branches to our government in Belmont, and we'll go into the town meeting in just a moment. But the executive branch, with which most people are very familiar, is the policy-making branch, including all of the staff of the town. All of our operations are there. We have 7 elected boards that we elect a member or two every single year. One elected official, which happens to be the town clerk, and this is on the executive branch, and more than 50 appointed committees by mostly the select board. In addition, we're pretty familiar with about 950 employees, which includes all of the schools as well as the town. So we're a pretty big enterprise. On the legislative side, that's where town meeting comes in. Town meeting lets us make our Belmont-specific laws, adopt state laws that are optional, and authorize spending, our budget, and adopt townwide initiatives that we believe are important for our citizens. Town meeting, as I mentioned, has nearly 300 town meeting members, and we have an elected moderator who is Adam Dash, who's joining us today. And Adam will be going into the job of the moderator and participating in town meeting. As you perhaps know, since you are most likely a town meeting member and voting, a town meeting member must be elected from their precinct. We have 8 of those. They're sort of like geographic pieces of the pie of Belmont. And we have, in addition, the opportunity for up to 14 at-large town meeting members, which both the moderator and the town clerk are members of that. Town meeting typically used to meet 6 to 8 times a year. Recently, in the past couple of years, because of some pretty heavy lifting in terms of zoning, we have met 12 times in the past couple of years. We also, town meeting has the privilege of having a few committees that advise town meeting, and we'll be hearing from Paul Richter shortly from the Warrant Committee, the Finance Committee, the Capital Budget Committee, the Bylaws Committee, and various building committees. Let's see. So Belmont, in addition to that, has, as I mentioned, 2 elected officials total. They are independently elected. The town clerk, have been for a bit, and Adam is the newly elected town moderator. The town officials represent all 26,000 residents of the town, and we work for those 26,000 people. In the particular zone of the legislative branch, which is the town meeting, we work for the town meeting to make sure that it works properly and support the town meeting members to make sure that they get the information that they need in a timely way and an accurate way so that they may vote, and work collaboratively with all of the town departments, particularly the town administration and the select board, to make sure that things are presented so the town meeting can make votes. The town meeting members have points of view and represent different things. The town moderator and the town clerk, going into town meeting and operations of town meeting, we are neutral and independent. And although we do have the right to vote, often the moderator does not vote, most likely. The full executive branch of the town, just as a quick summary, just to let you know, as I just reviewed. So the elected boards consist of those seven, which are the red squares. The Housing Authority is a semi or a quasi-state board, and then under that are departments and department heads, etc. So you can see that we're a fairly deep and complex organization. On the right-hand side, you see those two elected officials. Where do voters and residents come into this whole thing? And how can we possibly be responsive? Well, one of the ways we can be responsive is through our town meeting as our extended form of government. The representative town meeting is to make sure that every neighborhood in town, which perhaps has unique challenges or interests, is represented and fully represented. So there are 36 elected town meeting members for each of the geographically centered precincts, and those are set by election laws. In addition, the elected moderator is there, as I mentioned, and I have already talked about the committees that represent and advise town meeting as needed. So for town meeting members and anybody who's just been elected and you're watching this video to sort of get the scheme of how town meeting fits, you just have to remember that as you're approaching this as a new assignment, perhaps, when you're taking on a new job or an assignment, who really does not want to do a good job? And so one of the things that we like to talk about is how one may be a good town meeting member. What are the things that are available to you and the practices that seem to work the best for both people who have recently joined town meeting and town meeting members who've been there for a very long time? So here's sort of a list, and I'm not going to dwell on these. I'm just going to make them available to you. But again, this is the how to become a good town meeting member. You want to become familiar with town meeting procedures. Adam's going to go over some of those. Watch the session of this on town meeting on Belmont Media, who has been a terrific partner to us, and they cover all of our town meetings. You can just go onto their website on belmontmedia.org and look under the government and see town meeting and pick any session of any time since they've been covering us. And you'll get a flavor for the flow and ebb. Read all of the materials that we send you. Yes, some of them are legal jargon and it's tough to slog through it. But if you read them a couple times and you hear people talk about them and give presentations on them, there's a level of familiarity and hopefully a level of trust that you are being given accurate information on which you may be able to vote. Really consider each time you hear about an article and each of these opportunities, it's really good to understand and say for yourself what is being proposed here. And then go and think about what those impacts might be to your neighbors, your neighborhood, and the town at large. When you speak to other residents, which is always a really important thing, we are not an open town meeting in which everyone only represents themselves when they go to town meeting. A representative town meeting implies and expects that you are out there talking to neighbors and representing your neighborhood as well as the town. Talk to those people, ask them what they think. They may not be the most informed, but at least they can begin to give you a foundation for you to begin to ask questions. Attend and watch the League of Women Voters warrant briefing night. It's very important. It's a great way to know what the proposer of the article, the agenda item at town meeting, is going to be asking town meeting to take a vote on. And if that person or group has prepared very well, they often will provide a summary for you. So you don't have to worry about diving into all the details. You really have to understand the purpose, and the impact. When you're ready to speak at town meeting, if you should decide to do so, please make sure that you try to prepare your remarks ahead. Adam will be talking about our famous 3-minute limit and numbers of questions that you're allowed to do. Some people do get rattled when they're speaking in front of 300 people, and you just want to give yourself a little bit of a safety net so you get your point across. We do time everyone, so nobody's going to be running on for 15 minutes without the moderator's authority. If questions occur to you during town meeting as someone is speaking, just write them down. And then if you don't hear the answer, be prepared to stand up and go ask the question and try to be as succinct as you can. Remember, you're kind of catching people on the fly a little bit, so the clearer you can be, the clearer answer you're going to get. Come to town meeting prepared to accept different town meeting members' points of view. That's pretty important overall because everybody has a different point of view, and you may not have the same perspective as someone else, but I would say I have learned a lot by just attending town meeting and listening to what my fellow town meeting members have to say. And finally, be prepared to vote using your Point Solutions mobile voting device. Belmont has been using electronic voting since 2014, and in 2020, we switched over to mobile devices. So you can vote on your laptop, your telephone, your mobile phone, or on your desktop computer. What's obligated for you? What are your obligations in order to vote effectively? Please download that Point Solutions app, and you see on screen, you'll see the little logo. Make sure you're getting the right one. Once you do that, you're going to be creating an account if you have never voted at town meeting before, and you're going to create an account with a username and a password. That gives you some security. The username must be the email address that you provided to the town clerk's office. You can't go off and start creating other accounts under Fuzzy Cat 4, for example, if you haven't provided us with Fuzzy Cat 4. It's one of the secure methods that we have to make sure that only town meeting members are actually voting and receiving credit for voting, because Belmont has a bylaw that requires roll call voting for every single vote except for non-substantial votes such as procedural ones. You will be receiving shortly, if you haven't already, you will receive a message from Turning Technologies, which is the company originally had provided this, asking you to telling you that you're, quote, enrolled in a course. This is just us telling you that you're on the list and that we're expecting you to be voting with us. Make sure that when the moderator calls voting open, that is the time that you press your desired button. We've made a short video, and there are many resources on our town meeting website for information for town meeting members. And I really would like to suggest people go there. The video on voting is less than 5 minutes, and it's pretty to the point. You can actually have your device in front of you and know what's happening. I have to say I'm around town a lot. I know Adam is around town. I see Paul around town, and a lot of elected officials as well, town meeting members around town. And sometimes it's a little discouraging when we hear from residents who say, you know, I only vote in the presidential election, or I only vote in the state elections. I don't vote locally, no big deal. And we actually saw that last week with only 20% turnout in our local election. And here's my thought on that, which I share with high school students and elementary school students, middle school students, adults. Vote local. It is the most important, because all of the decisions that affect your every single day life, what people can do with their properties, what the taxes are going to be, how much we all owe, certain programs that we're trying to, and initiatives that we're trying to put forward, and of course the budget and local bylaws are voted at the town meeting level. So town meeting really matters, and we really appreciate very much people taking the time, educate themselves, ask us questions, and I hope I haven't run over time. Back to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. That was fantastic. Now I'm going to explain the format of town meeting. As Ellen said, I'm the moderator, and town meeting is Belmont's legislative branch. It's responsible for appropriating money, adopting zoning, and passing many other bylaws and articles, including the town, school, and capital budgets. Typically, the select board will call town meeting into session by drafting and signing a warrant. The warrant is like the agenda for town meeting and will list the articles or pieces of legislation the town meeting will take up. Most of those articles are put forward by various town bodies, including the select board. Citizens can also put articles on the warrant by obtaining the signatures of 10 registered voters. There are two types of town meetings. One is the annual town meeting, which is typically held in May and June of each year. This is when the budgets are passed and most of the town's legislative business is handled. It usually ranges from 5 to 8 nights, depending on how many articles there are on the warrant. The other kind is a special town meeting, which is a session of town meeting which is not the annual town meeting. Special town meetings are typically called to have town meeting address issues that have arisen and cannot wait until the next annual town meeting. Special town meetings tend to be shorter than annual town meetings and have fewer articles. Before each session of town meeting, there's a briefing on the articles by the warrant committee in conjunction with the League of Women Voters. At those briefings, presentations are made about each article to come up at town meeting and town meeting members have the ability to ask questions. Other aids to town meeting members prior to the start of town meeting, as Ellen mentioned, are reports by various town committees, which provide more detailed information on matters such as town and school budgets, the capital budget, Community Preservation Act applications for funding, and other things which Paul will address later. Town meetings are typically held in a hybrid fashion, meaning that town meeting members can either be in person where the town meeting session is being held, which is usually the Belmont High School auditorium, or else town meeting members can participate via Zoom. Since town meeting members vote using an app on their phone or computer and can speak on articles whether in person or not, town meeting members who have conflicts or an inability to attend in person can still participate. Each article has one or more motions under it. It is these motions and not the articles the town meeting votes on. Town meeting members can file amendments to the motions. Town meeting will debate the amendments and then will debate the motion itself, either as amended or not, depending on whether the amendments have been adopted. To start, the moderator will call the town meeting into session. There are often reports from various officials or town committees, and then the articles are taken up in the order set by the moderator. When an article is taken up at town meeting, the motion will be made under that article, a presentation will be made about the article, and then the floor will be open for debate by town meeting members. The moderator will call on town meeting members to speak and ask questions. Town meeting members may speak for 3 minutes and ask up to 2 questions. They may then get back in line if they wish to speak more. Speakers either approach one of the microphones or raise their hand on Zoom. They will first say their name and precinct number, and then speak to the articles and/or ask their questions. If a town meeting member wishes to make a motion, they must first make the motion before speaking substantively about their motion. This debate will continue until every town meeting member who wants to speak has spoken or asked their questions, or until a motion has been made and passed, which ends the debate, whether by a motion to terminate the debate on that article, a motion to indefinitely postpone the article, or the like. At that point, the town meeting members will vote, and the article will either be adopted or defeated. Town meeting members will then move on to the next article. When all the articles have been addressed, then that town meeting will be dissolved. During town meeting members may make points of order to ask questions or to object to a matter of process or to the limits on the scope of the debate. The moderator will rule on each point of order, and the debate will then continue. Of course, there's much more complexity to this, and I've simplified matters for the purpose of this video, but that's the basic overview of how town meeting functions. Now, Paul Richter, chair of the Warrant Committee, will explain the budget process. Paul?
Thanks, Adam. One of the essential roles of town meeting is approving the town budget. The town of Belmont cannot spend money unless town meeting votes to appropriate the funds. So town meeting has the final word on the budget. We have a fiscal year that starts on July 1, and town meeting votes on the budget at annual town meeting, about a month before the fiscal year starts. To assist town meeting in approving these appropriations, we've created a warrant committee, which advises town meeting on financial matters and is functionally equivalent of a town finance committee. The warrant committee is made up of 17 volunteers. 15 are appointed by the moderator, and the select board and school committee each appoint a voting representative to the warrant committee. The primary responsibilities of the warrant committee are to monitor the budget process, analyze the recommended budget appropriations, and advise town meeting members on the budget. That advice takes the form primarily of a written report to town meeting on the budget, which we release before the budget comes up for consideration at annual town meeting in the spring. We also advise town meeting on any other warrant articles that we feel have a fiscal impact on the town. When we talk about the budget, we are often referring to multiple budgets and appropriations. The largest of these, the operating budget, funds the annual operations of town departments, such as police, fire, library, DPW, and the schools. But the town meeting also approves the capital budget, which pays for building improvements, road and sidewalk paving, and large equipment and vehicle purchases. The Community Preservation Act budget, which uses a surcharge on property taxes combined with state matching funds to pay for a variety of small to large open space, recreation, housing, and historic preservation projects. Town meeting also creates and sets caps on spending for a number of revolving funds. Revolving funds are set up for specific programs that are intended to be self-funded, where expenses incurred are offset by corresponding user fees or other income. The budget process starts in the preceding summer with work by the Multi-Year Budget Advisory Committee, MIBAC. MIBAC is made up of representatives of the Warrant Committee, Select Board, School Committee, Comprehensive Capital Budget Committee, and town staff. MIBAC assesses the long-term trends in revenue and expenses, which are essential for making smart budget decisions. A constant reality of budgeting in Belmont is that residents' expectations for town and school services are high, and our sources of revenue are constrained by state law. Determining how much revenue we have available this year, set in the context of expectations for future years, is the essential first step in creating the annual operating budget. Starting in the fall, the committees and key town staff that make budget decisions gather for a series of public budget summits. The first summit focuses on available revenues, and in subsequent summits, we refine that information to determine the exact spending targets for the municipal departments and the schools. Once town staff know the money that they have available, they create the detailed operating budgets for the coming fiscal year. The Warrant Committee monitors the work of creating these detailed budgets, acting as town meeting's independent eyes and ears during the budget process. The main reason why the Warrant Committee is so large, 17 members, is to allow us to divide into subcommittees for analyzing the operating budget in detail. At the final budget summit, typically in February or March, the final budgets are presented and the Warrant Committee begins writing our report to town meeting on the budget. Here's a little more information on the budget appropriation votes the town meeting takes. We do not take a single vote on the town operating budget. Instead, the budget is divided up into a series of appropriations on various areas of town government. For example, public safety, municipal services, staff benefits, etc. And town meeting approves each of these appropriations separately. Dividing the budget up into these categories gives town meeting clarity and control on how we spend our money. Because town meeting votes to spend, say, $15 million on public safety, that is the absolute limit on our spending for the police and fire departments. We might, and likely will, spend less than that appropriation, but we cannot spend more than that. That reality that departments are unable to spend more than town meeting appropriates creates essential fiscal responsibility. But it also creates challenges when unforeseen circumstances arise. For example, if we have more storms than usual in one winter, the DPW will likely exceed its snow removal budget. To avoid having to call a special town meeting to amend the budget in these situations, annual town meeting includes in its appropriation a warrant committee reserve. In recent years, that has been $500,000. That reserve allows the warrant committee to act on town meeting's behalf to make emergency appropriations in unforeseen circumstances, such as a snowier winter than usual, or a building issue that needs immediate attention. In summary, I strongly urge you to read and understand the Warrant Committee's report on the town operating budget when it's released to town meeting in the spring. We take seriously our role of advising you. When we recommend favorable action on each appropriation, it is because we have studied that appropriation in detail and recommend that you vote in favor of it. We on the Warrant Committee want to be as useful as we can to be to you, Belmont Town Meeting, and I welcome your feedback on our report. Thank you. Back to you, Adam.
Thank you, Paul. If you're watching this and you're not a town meeting member, I ask that you consider running for town meeting. It is a rewarding way to give back to your community by becoming part of Belmont's long legacy of citizen legislators. Come join us. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank Paul and Ellen. I want to thank the Belmont Media Center. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at moderator@belmont-ma.gov. I'd be happy to talk. Thank you so much.